Welcome to the Bard of All Trades podcast. I'm your host, BradElBard, and today I have the man, the myth, the legend, David Weintraub in the house. Before we get started, I just want to give a shout out to all my sponsors. First thing first, my Patreon subscriber, I got Sam out there, and of course Vedinian, and he's also a big sponsor of mine. So make sure you guys check out darklegacy.net if you're into the sci-fi and all that good action stuff in the creative writing space. Also, Hybrid Healer. Check her out. I know David knows about her at Finishers MMA. She'll take care of your team. So if you train on the mats and you want to stay on the mats, hit her up. And then Valley Jiu-Jitsu. If you guys want 1 week free of Jiu-Jitsu, if you're trying to get involved with the MMA community and things like that, you get 1 week free if you mention me. And yeah, I think that's all of them. I need to write shit down. What's up, man? How you doing?
What's up? I'm good.
Yo, I finally got you on the bus in the capacity where I get to talk to you one-on-one. I'm really excited. Yeah, so we were talking briefly moments ago about how it's interesting the dynamic between regular BJJ competitors and the combat jiu-jitsu world of things and how there's a strange non-intermingling between them. What's your opinion on that?
So it's interesting even that that now there's a category of combat jiu-jitsu competitors. I don't know if that was ever an intended result, although I guess when you make a sport that has to happen.
Yeah, it's subcategorized.
Yeah. But it's meant to be I don't know, people talk about combat jiu-jitsu as the bridge between jiu-jitsu and MMA, or if you're a jiu-jitsu guy who wants to test their skills and see how it fares in a more realistic setting, or even just a more MMA oriented setting, or if you're an MMA fighter and you want to come and test your jiu-jitsu against good jiu-jitsu guys, they have this MMA versus jiu-jitsu thing, and now there's just the combat jiu-jitsu guys, we just do this mostly. Obviously most of the guys in combat jiu-jitsu are regular either sub-only guys, but I was saying before, if every IBJJF black belt champion and every ADCC champion and all these guys, if the top guys all wanted spots at combat jiu-jitsu worlds, and they would get them. Yeah. And if that were the case, I never would have gotten my first shot back in 2020. And there's people talk about combat jiu-jitsu they're looking down on it.
Yeah, dude, I hear that a lot. It's interesting that I was saying to you, it's like diet MMA. I've heard from people, which is interesting because I've done a handful of combat jiu-jitsu matches. My coach Andrew was doing a bracket. I think you were in the bracket. You were the hardest match he had, actually. I think
in Tennessee. Yeah.
He ended up winning that, but dude, getting him ready for that, he was fucking us up. Any of the higher belts that wanted to go with him, dude, Andrew's a monster in that. And it's just it's interesting because I really enjoy. There's a way different levels of cardio that go into it when you're doing combat jiu-jitsu versus regular jiu-jitsu. How do you I noticed you condition yourself a lot. I watched a lot of your Instagram videos ramping up to this, and I was thinking you're Rizzo from Ninja Assassin, with just the training in the house, doing the fucking pull-ups with the weighted vest and shit. I was dude, this guy's extra hard. It's just I feel the conditioning in that sense is taken a little more seriously and stuff too, you know?
Yeah, conditioning wise, it's probably closer to MMA. What's needed for MMA
for sure?
Because on the feet, you're wrestling. It's submission wrestling. Mm-hmm. You can still choke people or throw a Kimura grip in, but you can't strike on the feet. And then you also have to get anything done on the feet that you want to get done. You have 1 minute to do it. Yeah, because there's the get down rule. So between that and then striking on the ground, it's definitely pretty intensive as far as just physical output.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Why do you think people stigmatize it in that way? You'd think a lot of you were even saying earlier, a lot of these guys that are world champions in the other disciplines or the other promotions, they'd be taking all the money. No, it's all good. Don't worry about it. But they'd be taking all the money if it wasn't for that. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly. So I think there are a couple of reasons. One reason for sure is because people are scared. There's no dancing around that. If if all the top, flow grappling ranked guys, top IBJJF ranked guys, like if they all wanted a spot, they'd get the spot.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of money up for grabs in these tournaments if you can finish people, and there's not that much money available in most jiu-jitsu competitions around in most places. Like, people, if it were something they were just looking down on, if it was like, oh, this is bullshit, the guys in there aren't even high level, they're not even, then like they would go take that money. That's what would happen. And I think guys are intimidated just by the possibilities, by like the rules allow for you to get beat up, the rules allow for you to even be winning a match, dominating, go to overtime, and lose potentially if you're not well versed in overtime. Like, there's so many ways that it can work out differently that I think people are intimidated by it if they're not used to that.
Yeah, just because like I've never done any combat jiu-jitsu competitions, I'm curious, like there's probably more than just Worlds, right? Like there's probably other promotions. Like, are there differing rule sets as much as there is between like the finisher sub only versus like IBJJF stuff?
There's very little, and it's because of athletic commissions in the U.S.
Yeah, dude. I'm glad you brought it up because I was going to too. Like, cool. I think that's a huge reason why like this isn't gonna grab like mainstream as much as like regular submission grappling.
So, yeah, one of the issues is just licensing fees for the promoters, for the athletes. All of the additional insurance and everything, it makes it much more expensive for everybody involved when the commissions get involved. Mm-hmm. And they also can influence the rules and force changes to happen that aren't necessarily optimal. Or like, when you have guys like Eddie Bravo and Mike Beltran and Vic Davila, like they understand jiu-jitsu and they understand fighting well enough where like I trust them a lot more than a commissioner to know what's safe. And so yeah, that's why we do it in Mexico, is because there's no commissions over there. That's sick. There was that tournament you mentioned out in Tennessee, and apparently Tennessee Commission doesn't regulate open hand striking. Yeah. They allow it to be unsanctioned. There are a few other states that do that also.
Where do they do street beefs? I feel like that state would be like a hotbed for like an opportunity to get combat jiu-jitsu.
I'm not an expert on that, but someone was just showing me some fights from street beefs, and I feel like it's either Florida or Mississippi. Or they might even travel around.
One of the, I think it's multiple states. Like I think there's a few states that they have like a circuit in. But yeah, would you do a street beefs?
Maybe.
Dude, I be watching it, and sometimes I'm like, this shit's a mess, and then other times I'm like, yo, I actually want to fight that guy. There's a bunch of these internet like pop-ups of like MMA things. Like there's one in Europe called Defend Fight Club. Have you seen that one?
No.
That one's sick, because that one, they'll take guys that have like an actual background in different martial arts. So they'll say like boxing guy versus Muay Thai guy, or like jiu-jitsu guy versus wrestler, and like how that one goes. But like it's always it's really interesting because like it's like full MMA, and like they just do it in a fucking field, like in this like football field. Cool. This is random. These kids, it's like they're adults, but it's like they're young guys. It's really interesting. I like that. That's I think more legit than street beefs. As much as I love watching both.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's just taking a deep dive into my rabbit holes there.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that one's pretty sick. So what do you do like on your spare time, man? Like what are you doing when you're not smacking the shit out of people?
Honestly, man, I'm training and like recovering from training a lot, and then there's preparation. Like I do a lot of cooking. If I have free time at home, like I'll cook a lot of food and just try to have it available. Yeah,
that's smart.
Just a lot of regular shit, buy groceries, do laundry, and then I hang out with friends and shit when I have time. And I hang out with like every day. I'm hanging out with friends on the mats at the school and stuff. Like that's I enjoy the things that I do.
Yeah,
but
jiu-jitsu can really chew up like a lot of your life in a good way though. Yeah. Like I know like this past year in the bus, man, like the best people, like, consistently were all jiu-jitsu people with, like, my lifestyle, like, living in this fucking thing. They were all like, yeah, fucking shower, dude. Like, fucking come train. Like, you know what I mean? It's too easy to, like, enjoy your time with those people because it's always, like, good vibes and stuff. Yeah. I was going to ask as well, like, Who are your favorite training partners in the combat jiu-jitsu stuff in like your gym? Like if you want to name drop a few, because I know Tom Sellemer like was showing me some combat jiu-jitsu stuff,
cool.
so he's got to be a good guy to roll with.
Yeah, he is actually really good to roll with. JM is probably like my main training partner who I do combat jiu-jitsu rounds with. He's just like he's just, I guess, the person who's the most open to it. He's got a lot of experience. He's my size. Like, he's an awesome training partner for me. And like, we exchange ideas and stuff. Tom has been like, I rolled with Tom a lot when I was getting ready for the 135 tournament last year in March.
Damn, dude. What do you weigh right now?
Man, I'm probably like 150 right now.
I was gonna say, bro, you don't look like no 130, bro. Jesus, no, you had to shed some pounds for that one.
Yeah, it was like 6 weeks of dieting, 8 weeks of dieting. Yeah.
But you meal prep, so that's easy for you, man. Like, it sounds like you have it together. You're not hitting McDonald's on the way back from the gym.
Yeah, and shit. No, I eat healthy all the time, and then like I get very precise when I have to make a weight on a certain day.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. I'd love to hear like your what are your thought processes in going into a weight cut, actually. Like I'm always curious to hear people's secrets and stuff. I know like a lot of guys I know they just put the trash bag on and sit in the sauna the night before.
Okay, so I don't really like to cut water. I used to do the whole like hyperhydrate and flush sodium out of your body and then drop a huge amount of water weight in a short period of time and replenish all of the carbohydrates and electrolytes. And it's not that doesn't work. I experienced some pretty serious like health consequences from doing that too much.
Oh, I believe it, dude. What can you if you want to talk about it? Like, I'm curious. Like, what did you like experience? Were you getting like lightheaded and shit?
Oh man, so all right, I'll say it since you asked. So there was a time when I started to have seizures.
Oh, actually. Get the fuck out from fucking dehydrating yourself.
Nobody knew what was causing it for a long time, for years,
crazy, bro.
And ultimately, the thing that stopped it was just raising my basically my blood sodium levels, but the sodium levels in my brain.
That's crazy, bro.
Since then, I haven't had a seizure. Yeah.
That's crazy, bro. I remember hearing like Joe Rogan talk about like how his thoughts on like weight cutting and how terrible it is for like the body, but like, dude, that confirms. I think that's probably the worst thing I've heard coming out of a weight cut, man.
It was one of
I've heard people like blacking out, but I think a seizure beats that. That's fucked up.
Yeah, it wasn't like it never happened to me during a weight cut or anything like that. It actually happened to me in my sleep. But. And multiple times over a period of like a few years. Yeah. But
you like sweat in your sleep and shit?
I mean, sometimes, but not like normally. Yeah. It's not even that. I was just hyperhydrating all the time, drinking lots of water and eating like very, very little sodium. Sometimes just like as little sodium as I could, just always ready to cut weight.
Hyper purging it all the time.
I was just like, and ultimately, I was able to figure out. I actually had to kind of figure it out myself, although I had help from a doctor who explained some things to me. Yeah. But,
that's
took a while.
Scary, bro. Jeez, man. Oh.
It was. That was one of the that's probably the toughest thing I've ever been through in my life, I would say.
Dude, I bet, man. I'm glad to see you came out of the other side. Like, you're super, it seems like the tragedy always gives, like, the most, like balanced people, because like what's on the other side of doing this wrong, so now that's why you're like meal prepping and shit.
I appreciate my health. Like, I don't take it for granted, and I'm healthier, stronger than I've ever been. Like, I'm for sure in better shape than I ever was before all that. So like it does, like, you can come back from it for sure.
That's sick, man. Do you find that like to just go back into the jiu-jitsu and stuff topics, like I remember when I had JM on the show, like one of the things he was saying, like he said all his jiu-jitsu is combat jiu-jitsu. Like, you know what I mean? Do you feel like when you're rolling with people who don't do like the striking stuff, are you always kind of conscious of that stuff? Like, I know you roll at a pretty high level, so you're on the white belts, you're probably always like, oh.
So most of the time I'm trying to focus on whatever I have coming next that I'm preparing for, like that rule set, but I am trying to become more refined and like specialized. Like, I am trying to become more specialized in combat jiu-jitsu, and like that's my favorite sport to compete in. And I agree with the statement, like all jiu-jitsu is combat jiu-jitsu. Like, physically what works, like anything that physically does works if you time it right, and if it's the right situation for it, and if you do it well. And it's like, your selection of what to use in different scenarios. Like, some things may be very rarely useful in combat jiu-jitsu, but doesn't mean that they don't work. Like,
and maybe some people need to like figure out the meta behind that kind of thing. Can you give an example, like something that like you thought like wasn't effective when you first started?
So people think inversions aren't good. Like, there's footage of me just blasting guys who invert, with pump strikes and shit. But the reality is, so like, it took me like a year and a half of training with JM to figure out why I couldn't hit him while he was inverting. And eventually I figured out it's just because he was actually getting directly underneath me where I couldn't maintain. Like, I could maybe hit him once, but it wasn't worth it.
You're going to fuck your balance up,
other guys are inverting in front of you. And it's just like small things like that. And obviously he has his own timing and like his own way of like, he's way better with inversions than I am. But there are things that people say it doesn't work, and then someone does it on you and it works. It's like, you gotta respect it.
No doubt. That's cool. That's such a cool example. Like, I'm thinking about it. I'm putting myself in the shoes there. Like I've done like some striking rounds with like gloves on in my gym, and like, you got to be careful when you're going for legs in like a striking situation. But there's situations where like people will cover up, like especially when they're like not turtling, but like when they're running away, where you can pick a leg, and it's just like their balance is on the other leg, so you have this one and you can grab it and start entangling and shit. It's cool, man.
I think that the leg entanglement positions, like, I think a lot of leg attacks are very viable in combat jiu-jitsu. Just look at what Jordan Hawley did in his first 3 fights, the last tournament.
That's crazy. Do you have ambitions for going into like MMA as well?
So I have 12 amateur MMA fights.
Oh, I didn't know you had that many. Shit.
I haven't fought, and the last one was in 2017. And I was already having seizures at that time.
Oh, man.
And the reason that I was going to make my pro debut, and I ultimately didn't because of that. And it took a while for me to even come to a place where I was entertaining the idea. Honestly, what happened, if I'm thinking about it now, is at the Fury event, Fury Grappling 1, I talked to somebody who I knew there who had matched my first amateur fight, and she told me that CFFC would be open to giving me a contract for a pro fight if I wanted it. And that was the first, and I had talked to them about that years before in 2018, and that was the first time like anybody had even kind of presented the idea of fighting again since I had stopped fighting. So I've been thinking about it, and I've been even sparring and doing some MMA training and stuff, and more and more leaning into it. I am gonna fight.
That's
I'm
awesome,
have a pro debut, but I'm not sure when yet.
What's different about like your ramp up for like a big CJJ event versus like an MMA fight? Like, what's different about like your training regimen?
Man, so like I basically I break things down in like, all right, there are 4 different ways I'm looking at. I'm trying to pinpoint the things that I need to improve, and it's basically technical, physical, like conditioning, strength, that kind of stuff, and then cognitive and psychological, which are kind of there's crossover between those two.
I'm excited. Let's go down the whole. So let's hear about it.
So like, if I compete, that's how I'll watch myself afterward, and like, what are in those 4 categories? Like, what are the improvements that I can make before my next competition? And
you study tape like crazy, like you watch it like for hours and shit.
Sometimes, not always, but sometimes, yeah. And so for MMA, the physical aspect is more intense but shorter than combat jiu-jitsu. Combat jiu-jitsu, you have to fight a 10-minute round, and a 10-minute round with striking is really hard. Like, it's very hard conditioning wise, but different from doing 3 5-minute rounds where someone can maybe maintain the same pace for 5 minutes and be in shape enough to recover and do that again. And in combat jiu-jitsu, like, there's an element of strategy along with that conditioning, because then you have overtime. Like, you can't
the overtime.
You can't have a minute left, put everything into it, empty your gas tank, and then go to overtime with nothing. Whereas in MMA, you will have to be able to empty your gas tank. Like, you have to be able to hit that gas pedal harder in MMA, to be totally honest.
That's crazy. Yeah.
And then, like, technically there's just too much to work on. You can't even, like, it's almost impossible to even try to get good at everything in MMA. Not that people don't do it, but it just takes so much work. There's...
That's sick, man. I'm thinking about like the dynamic behind going into that, like from like a training perspective too. Like I'm wondering, like, where do you get your striking from?
Okay, so I grew up in a gym that focused mostly on striking. It was a Krav Maga school.
Oh, wow.
We actually had, like, I was very lucky to be around, like, a lot of old school martial artists from different backgrounds. So I had guys from karate, taekwondo, Muay Thai, kickboxing, judo, boxing, wrestling, sambo. Like, I had training partners from so many different disciplines, and almost all of them had competed and were, like, good older guys who were not competing anymore. And I was a teenager. I was like 16, and they were happy to share knowledge with me and share information, and like so. And I was training full time from 16, so like I collected a lot of knowledge in that school, and I was training there for like 3 years before I actually started competing. But yeah, my first probably I was a pure striker for 8 years, and then started to learn grappling after I had already started fighting MMA.
Yeah. What was like your first like foray into like grappling? Was it like the sambo and wrestling stuff there?
So I had some exposure to grappling techniques and like some rolls. Like I knew how to do an armbar, how to do a kimura from side control. I knew some basic stuff. Yeah. But I went into my first 2 MMA fights basically just with that, like knowing a couple of moves and having rolled with some other people who knew a couple of moves. And then I started to learn wrestling because I got taken down by a wrestler in my second fight. This ain't gonna happen again. So I got really into wrestling. I had guys who were willing to wrestle with me and willing to teach me. And one of them, my friend Chris Riker, he's been teaching me for 8 years. I still go to his house and we wrestle in his basement, and he helps me refine stuff. And I got into jiu-jitsu in 2015. I'd obviously been training grappling for MMA, but I actually got into jiu-jitsu under Shaolin in 2015.
Oh, that's interesting. And how old were you then?
May 2015, I was 22.
Nice. So how old are you now? You're 29. I'm 29. Nice.
Gotcha.
That's sick. So you said you've been pretty much going like full time into training since you were 16. Like, has that been like your life since like you just fight? You're literally Ryu from Street Fighter.
Kind of. Yeah, I dropped out of school to do martial arts.
Holy shit, dude! That's crazy, man.
My last day in school, I was 15 years old.
That's crazy, man. How did like what's that like, man? Like, what was the dynamic? Was your family and your parents like pretty supportive of that decision? I can't imagine they would have been.
No, but in some ways, see, like, I was, while I was in school, I was getting involved in all kinds of trouble. Like, I was cutting school, and I was doing a lot of stuff that I should not have been doing, and it was just honestly getting worse and worse going down that path. And, like, from my perspective, I just didn't know, like, I didn't have a direction that I was willing to go in. Like, I didn't like the idea of spending my life, like, go to school, get a job, like, in just, like, a conventional way.
Yeah.
And I didn't really like the idea of, like, being a criminal and become, like, I didn't like all that either. When I realized that I could do martial arts, I was like, that's why. And so when I dropped out of school, I had more direction and was, like, doing better things and living in a more positive way than I was when I was in school.
Yeah.
And so my family was, like, they were not supportive of me dropping out, but they kind of supported what I was doing. They didn't understand.
They were like, at least you're not like going crazy and like being like a fucking graffiti artist, like
right,
getting arrested all the time and shit.
Yeah,
that's crazy stuff, man. Wow, dude, that's crazy that you literally just went down that whole thing from like 15 on. Like this is a guy that like hit puberty as a fighter, and like you're an adjusted like martial artist as your lifestyle. It's pretty sick, man.
Thank you.
So, like, let's talk a little bit about, like, some of the promotions that you've done, like namely like high rollers. I know like that's a
Okay.
big one. Like that's where I first started like hearing your name and stuff like that you were
Okay,
doing those
cool, cool.
competitions and stuff. Tell me about what that is, bro.
Okay, so High Rollers is a cannabis martial arts tournament. You know, they call it cannabis infused jiu-jitsu. So yeah, I was at the first one. I was actually, because they go in rank order, I was a blue belt back then. I was the first competitor to step on the mat to compete at the first High Rollers event.
That's crazy,
and
bro.
So like that's a kind of cool thing that I've gotten to take with me since then, because it's just by chance.
Yeah.
But it's at the first event, they actually, like, because we were the first match, they stuck a camera in our face, me and my opponent, and they had me light a joint, and we passed it back and forth, and they like interviewed us while we were smoking before the match. But in general, the idea is that everybody's smoking, and everybody, it's the
Where is it at? It's in Vegas?
now it's in Vegas. Their HQ is in Vegas. The underlying theme is
That where you did the
showing-
first one?
Nah, the first one was California.
Okay,
It was
okay.
LA. Yeah.
Eddie got you in there.
No, so Eddie was there. He was the ref.
Yeah.
Actually, a very good friend of mine, Eric, he was the guy who like sent me the link and was like, "Oh shit, this is happening." He and I met Matt, who runs High Rollers. We had met him previously at a Nick Diaz seminar. We actually went to, Nick Diaz was teaching in Jersey City.
Yeah.
And we went and we just
It was like an MMA thing?
No, it was at the Henzo Gracie Jersey City School.
He was doing jiu-jitsu seminar?
Yeah,
That's
years
interesting,
ago.
yeah.
He was just, I don't even know how it happened, but we heard that he was there. So we didn't even go to train. We just went and gave him an ounce of weed.
Bro, that's crazy. That's
But
awesome.
while we were there, Eric took a picture for them, like outside. We talked a little bit.
Yeah.
And because that relationship existed, mostly Eric keeping in touch with Matt and like becoming friends, I got lucky and I knew that High Rollers was coming up. It was a 16-man bracket for each division, open sign up. Once it's full, it's full. And I
Yeah.
got in early enough to
That's
sign up.
crazy,
Yeah.
bro. Yeah, dude, I'll bet you that's really difficult to probably get in now. So it's 16 man for like each division, like so it's like intermediate, advanced.
Now they
like,
do
kinda
it
thing?
differently. Now they make, sometimes it's 8 men, sometimes it's 16.
Yeah.
Then they have like super fight titles for the bracket winners to go against the super fight champions. So
Oh.
like now they have a whole different setup.
That's sick,
yeah.
man. That sounds like it sounds like they're doing a pretty good job with it. It seems like a pretty integrated part of things. Is it true that like Snoop Dogg sponsors that shit?
I don't know. So I don't know about Snoop. I know that there was a conversation about it being at Snoop Dogg's, like, I don't know if it's his house, but like some property that he owns or
Yeah.
whatever.
I
There
heard
was a
something
tournament.
about that,
There was a
yeah.
tournament that was gonna be there, and then it didn't work out. They tried to set that up, but
COVID probably ruined
Wiz
it.
Khalifa is there all the time. Like,
That's
he's been-
awesome.
And like his cousins are also partners with Matt. Like Lonnie, he runs the event with Matt.
Do they train?
And like, yeah,
That's
Lonnie's I
awesome,
think
dude.
a purple belt, and Matt trains. He's a white belt, but he's been training a while.
Dude,
so,
that's sick,
yeah.
man. That's so cool. You got some comments here really quick I just want to look at. Awesome, man. What's up, Chris? That's sick, dude. So how do you get involved in the next ones? Like, do they keep inviting you back?
Yeah, a lot of times guys get invited back if they've been there already, or if they've performed well, or even if they just had a sponsor that liked working with them. Because now what they do is they have cannabis companies sponsor athletes, and like they have to pay a certain amount to get the athlete in, and then the athlete is, you know, able to win the prize money, and you know, like the athlete is essentially getting in for not for free. They're getting sponsored.
Yeah.
But they have the ability to win without paying out themselves.
Mhm.
But you need to have someone backing you, or you can
Yeah.
just like have your own company. That's the way to do it too. But,
Do you make a lot out of that tournament? Like, do they pay you well?
you know what? If you win, you get a nice prize. I don't think they don't pay like just to show or anything like that.
Mhm.
Or I think they might at a certain point. Like if you
like
hold like the super fight belt, like I think there
Yeah.
might be a couple of guys who get something just to show up.
Mm-hmm.
But now you gotta win quite a bit over there before you're gonna get paid.
That's interesting. And then, like, how much is it to enter if you don't get a sponsor?
Like if you sponsor yourself,
Yeah.
essentially, I think it's different from one tournament to the next.
Oh, damn.
Like it's It's been like
It's probably like a couple $100.
no, it's more than that now. It's in the thousands usually.
Damn,
Yeah. It used to be they would have tournaments where you just like pay $100 and sign yourself up, and then like you win a pound if you win.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But like it's evolved a lot. Yeah.
Damn, dude. That's crazy. It's probably a good party there, like
The events themselves, like that's really what attracts people, is the whole event and the environment.
You're probably happy that you were the first match because you got to chill and just smoke the whole time.
Yeah, I have like vague memories of sitting in a chair after eating a whole bunch of edibles, watching the black belt matches, like just passing out in the chair.
Yo, that's fucking funny, bro. Oh shit. Oh man, that's good shit, dude. Damn, dude. All right, that's awesome, man. So, yo, how did you? So you started jiu-jitsu, you said back then, but how did you end up at Finishers, man? Or it was 10th Line at Bethlehem when you were there. Still.
So, the way that it happened, it was basically because of the Finishers tournaments, and that even ties into High Rollers. So, in 2019, High Rollers did a tour around the country, and they held a bunch of open tournaments to qualify for High Rollers 3, and I went to most of those tournaments, but when they came to New York, the guys from Bethlehem came up for that. Renee dominated the purple belt division that day. I was a purple belt, but I competed at the brown-black division because I had already qualified at purple. And they had a few other guys compete as well. Zach was there, and Zach and I met each other. I think we smoked a joint with each other. And then they had the Finishers Survivor Series. Where it was like the team tournament.
Yeah.
And they needed like 5 guys to form a team, like a wild card team, so that they could make the tournament. They didn't have enough teams. And I sent a message to the Finishers account, like super formal, like, oh, hey, if I understood correctly, you need people, like, I'd be willing to compete. And he's responds like, yo, this is Zach. We met at High Rollers. You're in, man.
You're in, man. That's awesome, yo. And that's so funny that you address it like so formally, and like you're saying, like you dropped out, but like I never would have guessed that. Like if you would have asked me like what I think your education level, I'm like, you probably have a master's degree in something. Like just the way you carry yourself, you're just so like stoic, man.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
my grandma was an English teacher.
Yeah.
So like I had to learn as a kid.
You already graduated high school, basically. You already knew everything you needed to know. That's so fucking funny, man. Yeah, dude. I can imagine like approaching Zach with like some formal shit. He's like, yeah, what the fuck's up, man? Like, that's so legit, dude.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Oh fuck, dude. That's crazy. So then, when did you start training with Zach and JM, like making that your home gym? Because what was your original jiu-jitsu gym?
So originally under Vitor Shaolin, and I still train with Shaolin at his school, but not in the regular classes so much. And when I do visit regular classes, I just went to a Nogi class in his school in Jersey recently. But for like my day-to-day training, I'm at Finishers now. I moved to Pennsylvania for that.
Yeah.
And,
so you're from New York?
I'm from New York, yeah.
Yeah, dude. I didn't know that.
But yeah, like I'm still under Shaolin, but I'm also training at Finishers now. And that's just so anyway, the way I ended up training at Finishers, I came back for Finishers 12 and I won that one. And I ended up hanging out with Zach and JM afterward. And then Fight to Win had this whole run of events in October of 2020.
Yeah, at the 2300.
Yeah, exactly. And I was hanging out with JM a lot at those events and hanging out with all those guys. And at one of them, I fought and Renee fought. And afterward, Renee was like, hey, you should come by next week, come train, and just invited me over. And I came in. I didn't really say anything there, so I just like came in. JM was surprised. He was like, "Oh shit, cool!" And I had an awesome training session there. Started coming out like 2 times a week. Yeah. Started to go there more and more, and at some point the commute caught up to me. I was like, "Man, I gotta move."
Yeah, that's crazy. How long was the drive?
So without traffic, I had some decent luck during the pandemic of not having too much traffic, and it would be like an hour and a half, maybe even an hour and 20 minutes.
That's convenient.
But then with traffic, it can end up crazy, like 3+ hours.
Yeah, I can imagine. That shit's crazy. Were you like doing some couch surfing just to get the sessions in more and more and shit?
No, I was driving back and
Every
forth.
time.
Yeah.
Fuck
And
that, bro.
Yeah.
No way. That shit would get old, bro. I'd live in a school bus outside a gym before that, which I've done. Oh man, that's crazy, man. That's fucking crazy. Oh shit, dude. So man, that's crazy. That like, so you came from New York, bro. And then you devoted your life to martial arts, to kicking people's asses, and now you're living over here in Bethlehem. You're living like right here by Bethlehem.
I live in Allentown now. Yeah.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
You train with Thor and them occasionally.
Yep. Thor runs competition training on Sundays sometimes, and
I hear really good things about that gym
Yeah.
too, man. There's some like thick boys over there.
Oh
really
yeah, they got a
strong
lot
guys.
of big guys,
Yeah.
but they're good. Like
Yeah, of
absolutely.
course, yeah.
Like just in general, like it's all the same level basically.
Yeah,
like
dude.
it's all
Yeah, that shit's sick, man. So like, what are some of the things that like you're really looking forward to in the future here? What's coming up in early 2022?
It's a good question. I mean, Finishers released their schedule, and I'm gonna be on some of those events. Right now, I'm set to be in the Night of Champions coming up on the 22nd. I just heard some interesting news about Combat Jiujitsu coming back in like the later part of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So until then, I mean, there's the ADCC West Coast Trial.
Are you doing it? You're doing the West Coast trials?
I probably will. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Like there are a few things coming up, but I'm kind of looking for either Combat Jiu-Jitsu or as I like lean more in that direction, also maybe MMA as well. And I'm just trying to create opportunity for myself.
I'm excited for that, man. Do you teach? Like, do you teach like MMA? I mean, like do you teach like striking classes and shit?
No, I haven't in a long time. I used to.
Yeah.
But I kind of moved away from teaching to pursue like my own athletic career.
Yeah.
And
That's
the time,
so funny, bro. I just had a professional tag player on. It was the last episode. He said the same thing. He's like, I can't teach because like I'm not training for me anymore. Then, like he was saying.
Yeah, I think that especially like when you're trying to make money and like to do that, a lot of the time you got to teach people privately and stuff, and then like you're basically giving them an hour of using your body for their training, and then you've got to do your training, and then you've got to recover, which you really probably can't do.
Yeah.
And like at the time, I think it was a good decision. I do think about teaching now, where like I'll cover classes and whatever sometimes, but like I like to teach. I like to share information, and I'd like to incorporate it back into what I do at some point.
Dude, that's sick, man. It seems like you have a really like together like regimented approach at like doing the lifestyle like this way. Like, how did you learn to do this? Like for me, I make mistakes and learn from them. Like that's like the best way that I tend to learn. How did you like come up with the way that like it seems like you have a very like legit approach for how you have your shit together, man?
Thank you. I mean, trial and error for sure is like the way
to learn things. It is the way.
Yeah,
this is the way.
But yeah, and like a lot of like the things that originally kind of influenced me in this direction and like made me decide to live this way and pursue martial art. A lot of that was books, like, you know, just learning about different ways of thinking. Like I learned about essentially I learned about Shaolin Buddhism and like the Shaolin monks in China 1500 years ago, and that kind of led me to learning about Taoism. And like I've even spent some time training in Tai Chi at like a Taoist school and stuff, and
that's sick,
they're
dude.
like like learning about those philosophies and like the way I guess certain ancient people thought about the world and thought about like what they were pursuing in life definitely helped me. And then beyond that, it's just you try to apply stuff and then figure it out.
Dude, that's sick, man. Like you were talking about like the Taoism and stuff. Like recently, like a friend of mine told me that like I should look into Stoicism because I had never heard of like that whole thing. And like Tai Chi is sick. I used to do that too. Like in high school, with my sponsor here actually. But yeah, I was approaching like the Stoicism, like not knowing what it was, and like I was doing research on it, and I'm like, dude, this is me. Like it's crazy, like to think like the balanced perspective of things is so important that we need to like I feel like so many people could benefit from that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you feel like how do you find people like that you click with like in your circle? I feel like you have a pretty unique personality that doesn't like. It's not easy for like. Maybe it is. You're a pretty easy guy to get along with. I enjoyed your company pretty much immediately when I met you. But like do you ever run into people that like you just like can't? They just don't get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you're so tuned into like the fight lifestyle. Some people just probably wouldn't get the warrior like. Path.
Yeah, I'm not like all that aware, I think, of certain things that are probably like very socially normal in terms of just like how people talk to each other, or, like what they talk about, or like I get along well with martial artists.
Yeah.
I tend to get along well with people who smoke weed also. And like I like outside of those environments, pretty much it's kind of rare that like I'll really meet somebody who I get along with, and I do feel like I can talk to most people and like it's cool, but like initiating a conversation and being friendly is something that like I don't know, outside of martial arts I don't do it that well.
Yeah, no, dude, I feel that, man, and it's crazy, man. Like I feel the same way, man. Like there's some of the best people like to get along with, like even if it's not like intuitive, like stoners and fighters are. If you walk the path, like you get it, you know what I mean. Like
there's a lot of crossover between those groups.
Yeah, it's a mutual like understanding kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Look, we got D-Boy commenting here.
Shit.
David is one of my favorite people to train with in this sport. Big hearts. He is the definition of true martial artist. Dude, I couldn't agree more, honestly. Great comment from D-Boy.
Man, we were training together for the last Combat Jiu-Jitsu Worlds. And,
yeah, dude, I know D-Boy loves Combat Jiu-Jitsu. I actually haven't sparred with D-Boy in it, mostly probably because I'm scared. Like,
he's a beast. He's man, it's great training, though. I loved working with him. Yeah. I'm sure we're going to do more. He's going to be back out there. I'm going to be back out there, so I'm sure we're going to prepare more in the future.
Do you kind of identify, like, some of your, like, people that you've trained with, like a lot when you go to these competitions and warm up with them? Like, you guys kind of stick together?
Yeah, like I definitely know that like it's not even a short list, but there's definitely like a list of guys. I'll walk into the room and it's like if I have Combat Jiu-Jitsu coming up, it's like I want to roll with that guy. But like it's a lot of people who are good training partners. Like that's one of the reasons why I wanted to be training at finishers more often, and like it's a tough room.
It is a tough room. I 100% agree, man. I've only trained in one. That's a lie. I've trained in a handful of classes at your guys' spot, and man, it's always fucking great rolls, man. It's like everyone's courteous. Like I never like some places I go, like I'll panic tap because I'm like, I don't know what this fucking guy like. This dude's way bigger than me. He's rolling. He's not matching my energy. Like early part of the roll, it's like this is not a good vibe. But yeah, 10th final, dude. It was. I remember like anyone I roll with, it's like, oh, he got me with a sneaky thing. Well played, sir. Like, it's always great, man.
Nice.
So do you travel around to train with other people a lot? Like, do you visit gyms often, or you pretty much like vibe a place out and then kind of like integrate slowly?
I do visit places. I got, especially like after the Combat Jiu-Jitsu Worlds back in March, I started getting lots of invitations from different people to visit and stuff, and I tried to make it to as many different ones as I could. Like it's tough, but I like to visit other schools and get rolls in with people I'm not used to, and see how people are teaching things and stuff like that. Definitely, and like I do want to have like my home gym is like where I'm spending my time. I don't need to be running around all the time.
Yeah, of course. I was doing that like all last year, man. I was training everywhere, like in New Jersey. Tons of places in New Jersey were inviting me, including like the old studio location.
Yeah.
And dude, like, man, like when I got back to my gym, I was like, fuck, I miss you guys. Like, you know what I mean? It's there's something about like the home turf that is just like a big thing. And one thing I really enjoy about like visiting the other gyms though is like just kind of vibing out like how big like the mentality of like the brotherhood in jiu-jitsu is, because in my experience like it seems like everyone's really like we're here for each other, like in a big way. Like everyone's like out for each other. Like if you're like there's certain like there's a lot of rivalries like you see all like in the fucking social media all the time. But like when you're like I would say like I'm pretty casual jujitsu guy, right? Like I don't make money doing jujitsu, so I'm a casual in that sense. So like all the other casuals like that I meet in the other gyms, like they're all just good dudes. Like every time like I go out and experience that, it's fucking awesome, man.
Yeah, I think that there is like it's dangerous because like there's a connection that it gives you with people, and like rolling with somebody in particular, like just the fact that like there's a very intense physical exchange. Like you get to know a lot of things about a person that you could know them for years off the mat and not know about them.
For sure,
and
dude,
like
100%.
There's definitely a connection that you have with other people who do what you do, and then like especially if you actually get to roll with them and train with them, and especially over a period of time. But like I do think it's kind of dangerous to just assume. Like I don't assume that everybody doing jiu-jitsu is a good guy or wants to be my friend or whatever. Like
100%, 100%. And like you said, you can usually kind of vibe that shit. It's like like it's one thing to be like a spazzy white belt, but like sometimes it's like, man, you're actually just a shithead, aren't you? But yeah, dude, I feel that, man. And I feel like you must have like a pretty good radar for that because you've been around.
I hope so.
That's good shit. Yo, so like when you were growing up, like where did you get inspired to become a martial artist? You used to play Mortal Kombat. Like what was your thing?
Oh man, so all right, I played Tekken first of all, but
you mean Dragunov?
but so actually, if we're going by like video games, it's Budokai 3 is like the one. Right. Yeah, because so watching Dragon Ball had a huge influence on me. Sure. I had during like a time. It's interesting actually. During a time period in my life where I was doing like some of the worst shit that I was doing, I would spend lots of time in my friend's house, and he introduced me to Dragon Ball. And like sometimes we were doing stupid shit. Sometimes we were just like getting high, getting drunk, and sitting in his room watching Dragon Ball all night, like because it's so many episodes.
Yo, I know.
And then Dragon Ball Z also, and like that was like I don't know why I had always been into martial arts. I'd always wanted to do martial arts. I trained a little bit as a kid, in like after school karate program and stuff like that, but for some reason that just like at that time in my life, like that kind of like gave me a sense of like that's the direction I want to be going. And like I started working out a lot. I started caring more about, you know, my physical shape and just like
it's crazy the shit. Like I've heard so many dudes say like, yo, Dragon Ball Z is the reason I care about it.
Oh yeah, it's powerful. Like
dude, it is so powerful.
It's a powerful story. It's a retelling of a powerful story. Like the journey to the West and you know the story of the Monkey King, Sun Wukong, and all that. Like that's an old story. Yeah.
What's your favorite saga?
Ooh,
that's a good one.
See, it might be when Goku comes back from training with Kami and for the World Martial Arts Tournament and beats Piccolo Jr.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, it was cool, and that's the only time you see him as a teenager, like in an actual teenage form, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
But
I have like a soft spot for like the Cell saga, you know.
Okay, that's a great one.
Yeah,
that's a great one.
It's the same thing, like the tournament thing, where it's just like the test, and then like you're putting the faith in the sun, passing the torch. Like that shit was hard, and then Gohan disappointed us for the rest of the series. That shit's crazy though, man. That's so funny that like anyone in our generation, like you can talk to them like, yo, you like Dragon Ball Z? Yeah. Obviously trained. Like,
yeah, exactly.
That's so funny, man. Who was your main in Tekken? I hate Tekken, yo. That's like my worst. I like Heihachi when he's in Soul Calibur, but I don't fuck with Tekken.
I didn't play that much, but I would play with a lot of different characters. I probably use Jin the most, just like main character, but. Yeah.
I think I like the Devil Jin when he gets the laser eyes.
I liked King. I liked like a lot of. I liked a lot of the weird. Like if it was a character that did something weird, I liked that. Yeah.
I liked. Didn't you post something? I don't know if it was you or someone else. It was someone in this greater PA community but it was like it was Yoshimitsu doing some shit.
Yeah. That was me. It was a guard pull.
Yeah. This guy's fucking awesome. Oh shit. That's. I think I saw that post, and that's one of the reasons like I DM'd you. I'm like, what's this podcast, bro?
That comes from like
talking about some nerd shit. Yeah.
JM and I talk about like he came in one day talking about Yoshimitsu and like attacking people off of sitting down and we start talking about like I was imagining like an Imanari roll where you head kick the dude instead and then like maybe wrap up the leg and like just like weird shit and weird ideas, and then even if all that comes from it is just sitting down and smacking someone in the face, like it's still kind of cool.
Yeah, it is like invert and then like pop it out.
Yeah. I do think I could attack the legs off of that if I drilled it.
Yeah, for sure, easily, bro. I like what you're saying, like the head kick thing, like and then grabbing a leg like that. There's legitimacy to that. I remember I actually filmed Rob Deagle's like leg locks for MMA instructional, and a really interesting thing that he mentioned in there was using the position of I believe it was reverse De La Hiva to collect a leg, and then you can head kick from there. And what's really advantageous about that specifically, before you like start to invert and stuff, is the range that your leg has is greater than the range that their fist does, like their hands do at that range. So you can head kick a lot easier, and it's just so interesting to think about like that kind of stuff. Even my coach Andrew, like he talks about like going from like leg to choke, like skip the body, and like you need to find a like. You know what I mean? Fold the paper. Instead of moving you'll move space to accommodate. It's crazy, man. God, I love martial arts. It's so good stuff, man. But yeah, man, like, what are you into now, though? Like, as far as, like, shows and stuff? You watch, like, a lot of anime and shit?
No, I haven't really watched any TV or movies or anything in a while. Yeah,
You just train, like you pretty much like at your home. Like, what's your regimen look like when you're doing like a home session?
So like I'll normally work out in the morning. Like it's for me, just the whole day's better if I can start the day doing something difficult. Yeah, and so I'll try to work out in the morning. Most days I'm working out in the morning, and then. Depending on, upcoming competitions, weight cutting, that kind of stuff, maybe I'll eat right after, or maybe I'll wait. I write a lot in notebooks. I like make training plans and write down ideas and stuff, and just take care of my house. A lot of just normal shit that's time consuming that I just get done in between training sessions. Go get groceries, come back, work out again, get myself ready to go train at night. Don't get home until 10:30 at night. It's just
that shit's crazy. You live alone?
I do. Yeah.
Dude, you are actually like a fucking hermit, bro. You're actually a monk, bro. That's crazy, man. That's so sick. Like, do you have like inspirations from like history? Like, what are like some of your most like favorite like historical like warrior kind of things? Like, I feel like you're really into that kind of thing.
I've been inspired by a lot of stories. There are a lot of sure. Yeah, I mean, we mentioned Journey to the West, Sun Wukong. But like even like real people like so there's a story of a warrior named Dian Wei. I'm pretty sure he was Chinese, and obviously some of this is legend. Like you don't know what so the story is that he became the right-hand man of the emperor during his time period of China, because a whole like unit of his army was trying to raise up a banner, and he walked over and he did it himself, and he was just so big and strong that he became like a very highly regarded warrior very, very quickly. And he had his weapons were these two basically axes. I don't remember exactly what they're called. It's some kind of like Chinese axe that each weighed something in the neighborhood of 40 kilos. Like just crazy. Like you have to be strong enough to even use the weapon.
Yeah.
And he would just chop people up on the battlefield, and in battle after battle after battle was very, very successful. And then and the emperor treated him very, very well, gave him anything he wanted, fed him, and eventually he died on the battlefield, shot full of arrows.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's gotta be from like ranged weapons. That's the only way you're taking out a tank like that.
The story is that he bled out, that he was still fighting until he completely bled out and fell. And like, even like, that's not some incredible hero story or anything, but just to hear about somebody, you know, so committed
on the warpath,
just like that, you will fight until the blood falls from your body and you're not alive anymore. You're until that point. And it's like, you know, people think that they push themselves. Sometimes you want to tell yourself like, oh, I pushed myself hard today. Like, maybe I just didn't, maybe I feel like that because I didn't push myself that much. Like,
for real. So do you like that? That's DN way. You gotta send me. You gotta send me some like stuff on that. I'm interested.
Sure, yeah.
I love history, man. I'm like super into like historical like battles and shit like that. But I was gonna ask, like, do you have any matches like coming up that like you're really looking forward to fighting like a specific person? Like, do you feel like you have like a rivalry with anyone?
Man, I don't know if I have a rivalry with anyone. You know what? In the finishers tournament that's coming up, the Night of Champions, Frank Rosenthal's in my division, and I definitely would like another shot at him after the Emerald City fight because he triangled me. So like, that's always like, you see, and like other guys in that bracket are really good, where it's like, oh, I'd like to test myself with this guy. Like John Battle is a cool match. Who's kind of, I feel like I've heard.
You're saying some big names.
Exactly, and like John is someone who I've heard his name in, so like we've been in the same bracket I think a bunch of times. We said like I've anticipated having to face him for a while. Frank is kind of the same, although I already faced him. But I don't know about rivalries. Like, my biggest focus really is like getting back out there for Combat Jiujitsu, and you know, I'm just waiting for them to announce an event for me. So
no, that's sick, man. That's sick. Do you have any like promotions that like you're really like would love to do but you haven't yet? Like, obviously you mentioned like the Combat Jiu-Jitsu like CFFC thing, or not Combat Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, is there another like promotion that you haven't done that you would really like to do?
Man, I fought in like most of the Who's Number One is cool. I have fought at Who's Number One before. I fought, but before they were doing what they're doing now, when they were still working with Fight to Win at Who's Number 1 3, I fought there. But like the way they do it now with like smaller cards and, you know, just elite competitors, that would be really cool. Game Bred FC for MMA would be cool. They're doing bare knuckle down in bare knuckle MMA, full pro MMA rules, sanctioned, but with no gloves. And
but what's your opinion on that? Because I think like that there's legitimacy to that in the sense that like you're not hitting as hard.
I think there's some room in there for combat jiu-jitsu fighters, is what I think. Yeah, is that first of all, you have to be more precise. You can't just throw hard punches without like and then and you can elbow. It's still pro MMA, so it's not like you can't strike people. And you can strike with an open palm, and people act like that's so. People act like you're doing something softer, like you're hitting somebody with the end of your forearm bones. Yeah. The only difference between that and this is all these fragile little bones in your wrist and your hand, like, and that much reach. You have that much less reach. But like you can do that, and it does work. And without your hand wrapped up and with the glove and everything, you have more wrist flexibility. That probably makes it more viable.
I feel like and there's definitely like parts like depending where you hit on the body, like you're gonna do almost like more damage with this. Like I feel like, you know, the jaw is like a specific one where like the knuckles like are good, but like I feel like you get like a nasty like kidney shot or something like with the palm. Like,
I think that knuckles are more likely to make cuts, and then like in some sense, you have like a half inch of muscle that you don't over the bone that you don't. So like definitely the bone on bone, like you can cut people's foreheads and stuff. But I mostly see it as the same. Like I've cut people with palm strikes in combat jiu-jitsu, and I didn't expect to. Like I was kind of surprised when I saw it. I was like on the cheekbone actually. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. I'm like, let me hit my. Yeah, that's sick, man. Man, that shit's crazy. What do you think like sets you apart from like other like people who train solely like for MMA? Like what edge does the combat jiu-jitsu give you? Because you can't use like the elbows and stuff, right? Like you're pretty limited in your scope, but it causes you to specialize somehow.
Right. So that's one of the things, like in anything, you can become too specialized where it doesn't translate over, and then you can do just the right amount of it and then like bring it into MMA. So like when I train with MMA fighters, like usually like when I train MMA grappling with MMA fighters, like usually I'm able to stay on top, I'm able to get on their back. Usually they're trying to stand up from bottom, exposing their back, and they're not used to people being quite as good at taking the back, to be totally honest. Like one of the biggest differences between combat jiu-jitsu and MMA that's never talked about is that you never get to be a grappler who took down a striker and now you just have your way with them. Yeah. In combat jiu-jitsu, you're only fighting elite jiu-jitsu guys. At least at combat jiu-jitsu worlds, like you have to be on the ground with an elite grappler and they can hit you too. And like, it's not like there's never striker versus grappler. There's never anything like that. And so like it should be harder to hold people down in combat jiu-jitsu than it is in MMA. But MMA fighters are more willing to turn their back to try to stand up. They're less willing to accept bottom position. People are in combat jiu-jitsu sometimes are willing to sit down, things like that.
They
but
almost want you to specialize like in legs and stuff.
So like holding people down in MMA is way harder. You can't approach the guard low. In MMA, you get kicked, whereas in combat jiu-jitsu, you can bend over and hold the legs and stuff like that, and like pass like it's jiu-jitsu. So like there are things like I like to approach the guard low in combat jiu-jitsu if guys are sitting up, because I feel like if I come in standing, I can't hit them and they'll just come up on a single leg or something. Whereas like if I'm low, I can hit them before they can touch me. And so like small things like that are definitely different. But
yeah, damn man, your fight IQ is good. Like I'm thinking about this, I'm like I don't even know how I would approach like a dude that's kicking now. Like I'm trying to think like how am I passing that? You need that kick to miss and then like pass it so you can get to them into like some kind of turtle. I don't even know. That shit's crazy, dude. Man, how often do you like study like other like people's tape? Like do you watch instructionals and stuff?
So I don't watch instructionals that much. Although like if I see something cool just like scrolling on Instagram, I do watch it. But I watch fights and I watch fighters, and I like to see like when people are able to consistently do something against various people, especially when it's kind of already known that it's something they do. I try to figure out why, try to understand why it works. Like, and then someone stops it, you got to figure out, well, why did that work? And like, so I watch fights and I study things, and then like, I enjoy listening to people talk about technique and breaking things down and stuff like that, but the live action always tells the truth. People don't always tell the truth. People don't even always tell the truth when they're trying to. You know, we just don't necessarily know better. But like when you can pull the raw information out of a fight, that's, I feel like, a little more reliable.
For sure. That makes a lot of sense too. I think like what's interesting about like a lot of the instructionals like that I'm aware of that are on my radar are people who have like a track record of doing things. And I think what's really nice is like a lot of them will actually take match footage and put it into their instructional and say, here's how I did this here. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That stuff's really interesting to me.
Yeah, I've watched some
instructionals myself, but like I'm aware of like what's going on with that kind of thing.
I've watched some like 10th Planet videos with JM in his office before, just like reviewing stuff before going into class. And we'll sit there and it'll just like cut to an MMA fight with like a 5-minute leg lock exchange in MMA, and you just see how it really plays out, and like it's not clean, but you just watch the fight, and it's like and like and then it's like it's a very clear demonstration of this is what this looks like in real life. And like
that's sick, man. Have you ever had to use like martial arts in like a street like scenario, like self-defense scenario?
I don't think I've been in a street fight since I started training martial arts, to be totally honest. I think I've had people like approach me and like just, you're confident or whatever, and then they go away and that kind of stuff, and like maybe if you didn't know how to fight and you were less confident, like people tell, but and like, but in general, here's the real truth. Most of the time, if you're not like super vulnerable, if you're not like a very, you've got to, like, if you're not almost intentionally making yourself vulnerable to conflict, it's very hard to get into a fight. Like, usually both parties need to want to get into a fight for it to actually happen. For sure. Like, it's really hard. Yeah. I just don't try to get into fights, and I don't get into fights.
Yeah, exactly, like, dude. It seems pretty interesting. Like, from my perspective, I couldn't agree more. And especially, like, what you were saying, like, you can always talk your way out. Like, and most martial artists are that way. Like, if you're confident enough, like, you don't want this, man. Like, chill. Like,
yeah, it's just...
This isn't gonna end good. Like, I might end up with a fucked up lip, and you're gonna go to the hospital.
yeah. Like, everybody will get hurt. Mm-hmm. It's not. It's.
Yeah. The scariest thing for me anymore is like someone who's armed, like with a knife or like a weapon.
Sure.
Like that, man. Like, I don't want to get cut, man. Like, I don't have health insurance that's gonna cover that kind of shit.
Yeah, that's
scary, man.
Go tell the doctor. Oh, I tried to fight this guy. He had a knife.
Son of a bitch. But yeah, like, I'm curious, like, so you only train like for a living. Do you have like sponsors and stuff? Like, how do you get like
So
like, survive?
So I have a rental property, like a 2-family home that I rent out, and I'm in the process of actually trying to sell it, trying to get rid of it. But so basically, from 16 till 26, I was teaching martial arts, and I was living on my own from the time I was 20, I guess. But when I was 26, I got this place as an investment for a while. I lived there and rented out 1 unit. And then I moved back to the city to be closer to training, rented out both units. And it's, I manage it really differently from the way people, like, if you're investing in real estate and you're trying to like build a real estate portfolio, then you would borrow against a property that you have to get another one. And then you rent out those units and it pays for the loan, and then you borrow against that one and you get another one. And then 25 years down the line, you have like a bunch of properties and lots of money and so. But I just have this one thing that helps me pay my bills so that I can live the lifestyle that I want to live. And I set that up like 3 years ago, about 3.5 years ago, something like that.
Damn, dude, that's awesome, man. It's like, dude, it's crazy. Like, I love hearing like an underdog story. It's like, yeah, I dropped out of school and I'm like a successful. Like, I fucking love that.
Thank you, man.
You're inspiring me right now. Like, I'm like,
appreciate it.
Dude, I should be fucking renting out buses or something.
You should be doing this. Whatever you want to do is what you should be doing. Yeah.
Figure it out, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. So do you have like any advice like that you would give like someone that maybe like is curious about like taking steps to do like professional fighter lifestyle?
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to do it the way I did it, like drop out of school and like, just commit only to that. But you've got to put in the work. Like, you've got to patiently build yourself up physically. Like, you don't want to be looking at the shit that I'm posting on Instagram or somebody else is posting and like, oh, I'm going to copy these exercises. Like, you need to know what was the entire process that led up to that. And so just like patiently build yourself up, and skill wise too, like just be training all the time when you have available time to do a workout, to get a training session in, to go drill, to go roll. Like, there's so much to learn. Like, if you want to fight MMA especially, but even if you're just looking to like compete in grappling or combat jiu-jitsu, like just put in the time you can, and the results come back. And it surprises you. It'll catch you off guard after like you put in the time, and all of a sudden a lot of time passes.
Yeah, dude, that's crazy, man. I'm really like I'm really happy I got to sit down and talk to you. Like,
I'm happy to be here, man.
This is different than what I expected. I didn't know that you were so like vested into all, like, well, so like super specially like vested into like the fighting thing as you are. Like, I was expecting to talk about some different things, and it's really cool to hear.
I mean,
the way you shook your life out to be this way is awesome, man.
Thank you, man.
I'm really happy to hear that. Like, I'm excited to see what comes next.
I appreciate it. Yeah, you know, it's actually kind of a weird thing. Like, if you really just think about it for what like, competing in sports and being an athlete and all of this, like, you know, you do things, like, for your own personal growth and development. Like, all of it sounds good. But then it's kind of funny when you think about, like, spending lots of time getting good at hurting people is not the most useful way to, like, spend your time, really. Like, it's not, it's like a weird way for things to work out, but it does, it leads to a lot of good. It's not, like, I think that's the old, like, the ancient secret of martial arts, and, like, maybe even why a lot of arts kind of turn into bullshit over time, is that, like, it is all about hurting people. It is violence. It is combat. It's fighting. And if you do it in the real, raw way, it will transform you as a person into something that you didn't know that you could be. And you will learn intensely about yourself and about the world and about people. And then if you start to tell people, hey, it's just about personal growth, it's not about fighting, don't worry about it, then they don't get the real shit, and they don't get all that growth that comes from it, and you just have, like, these weird cults and shit like that. Sure, like, sure.
I think, like, the big thing that, like, they always, like, all the forums that I'm in, like, I'm frequently on, like, Reddits about martial arts and stuff, and everyone's always talking about, like, yo, like you always have the new guy, like, asking, like, oh, what should I get into, I want to, like, do MMA or whatever, and they're like, you know, anything that you don't spar in is not a good sign. Like, if you're not sparring, you're not pressure testing what you're learning.
Right.
You don't even know if it works. Like, actually, that shit's wild, man. But yeah, I think, like, we're probably, like, let me see what time it is. It's 1 o'clock, so we probably did like an hour and shit. Is there anything you wanted to dive into at all? Like, I'm curious about, like, anything else, like, you have to share. Like, do you have anything, like, you wanted to share with, like, the folks at home and things like this?
Man, I don't know. I don't necessarily have, like, something to promote or anything like that. I try to share my ideas as much as I can, you know. Cool. But yeah, I think that's.
I got a couple more questions.
Sure.
So, like, with, like, the jiu-jitsu context, like, I'm curious, like, so I know you've done MMA, and I know you've done jiu-jitsu, so I want to ask this question for both. Like, is there, like, a rematch you would like to have? Like, is there a match that you would like to do again, like, with any specific dudes?
Yes. So,
like, I want to hear one for jiu-jitsu, I want to hear one for MMA.
MMA is tougher, but alright, so for jiu-jitsu, or at least combat jiu-jitsu, and I say this with respect, like, I like the person, but I want Ben Eddy. You know, he beat me in the quarterfinal back in March in the bantamweight tournament, and I just know that if we fight again, the fight will be very different. You know, I lost essentially off of the get down rule. Like, they flipped a coin, he chose bottom, and he started with double underhooks from butterfly guard, and we went from there. And from there, I made a lot of mistakes. He did a lot of things right, and he finished me. But if we did it again, it would never go there. It would never get to that spot. And that's not to say what would happen, but it would be a totally different fight. So that's when I would, like, and, like, I've hung out with Ben since then a couple of times. Like, he's a good guy. I like him. But I would love to do that one again. And man, in MMA, I didn't fight. I don't know that I fought anybody who I really care if I fight again, to be honest, in MMA. Like, I would kind of rather, like, move forward into, like, I was fighting amateur. A lot of the guys who I fought did go pro, but yeah, I don't care if I fight any of those guys again.
Did they go pro in, like, UFC or, like, Bellator or something like that?
Some of them have fought in CFFC. A couple of guys who I fought in MMA actually ended up pros in boxing. And some others in, like, small organizations, like Combat Zone MMA up in, I think, New Hampshire, something like that. Like, so, none of the guys that I fought made it into, like, the big stages yet. Yeah.
That's interesting. What do you think about, like, you're talking about the boxing thing? Like, what do you think about the like, all the YouTube fights with the Paul brothers and shit?
I don't hate it. I don't. I'm not like, oh, it's a disgrace to martial art or anything like that. Like, if anything, it exposes that with like selling combat sports and what people will watch, people care way more about being entertained than they do about whether what they're watching is good when it comes to fighting. It's not like a lot of other things.
Look at YouTube and you see, like, if you grab 10 videos with, like, over 1 million views, you'd be like, what the fuck is half this shit?
Yeah, that's true, I guess, with, like, entertainment that you consume that way. Like, with a lot of other things, it's not like nobody's gonna, like, you won't go eat at a restaurant because the entertainment's good if the food's garbage. You know, like, it's, like, a lot of things, I don't know. Basically, no one cares if you're good at fighting while you're fighting, is what it shows. There are very few people.
They're just there for the spectacle.
Yeah, they just want to see what happens. They want to see one guy beat up another, or some crazy shit happen, or like,
Are there any, like, matchups you'd like to see happen? Like, in either, like, MMA, and this could be, like, people, like, you're aware of, or, like, people that you just, like, look up to or something, and then, like, I'm curious, like, from the jiu-jitsu side of things, too.
Yeah, off the top of my head, it's tough to name them, but, like, so just because it's been like, I guess, popping up lately, I wouldn't mind seeing Cejudo fight Volkanovski for that 145 bet. Like, that dude is Olympic gold medalist and 2-weight world champion. Like, he's one of the most accomplished combat athletes there is. Why would I not want to see him challenge himself, like, on another level? That's that's the kind of stuff that I like, when people stay hungry even after they've accomplished a lot.
You feel like even like just talking about, like, once they've accomplished a lot, like, I think about, like, Anderson Silva. Like, do you think, like, there's a point where, like, you peak, and like when you identify that you peak, like, I think, like, his thing is, like, I'm just doing it for fun anymore. Like, what's your opinion on that? Like, even in context with you, like, do you have an idea, like, when I hit, like, 36, I think I'm done? Like,
so first of all, I love Anderson, and I feel like first of all, Anderson, I think, is just so good he can get away with that.
Whatever,
like, he granted, he's fighting Tito Ortiz in a boxing match. Like, that's not like, I feel like I would do just fine with Tito Ortiz in a boxing match, but Anderson's just so good that he can do it for fun and still be at a pretty high level. And he's accomplished so much, and then he fell so far that, like, and everyone still loves him. Like, he doesn't care. He's got nothing to lose. It's almost a perfect situation for someone like that. Like, I want to stay healthy enough to keep competing for a really long time. Like, I don't want to, I definitely wouldn't say, like, oh, when I turn 36 or whatever, like, I don't have that feeling about myself. I don't even have the feeling of, like, I would be fine just never retiring, and at some point I have my last fight, and nobody even know, like, and it's just like, oh, that happened to be the last one because I didn't fight again, you know, like.
No, I like that, man. Like, you'll know when, and it'll be the time. Like, it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, even now, I'm becoming a little bit more selective about, like, oh man, I don't want to compete every weekend because I can't give my best every single time. I want to be more precise about how often I compete and when, and, like, as that goes on into the future, I can see myself more and more refined in that way, and at some point competing less frequently because of that. And then, you know, you fall into patterns like Buchecha comes out once a year for Worlds, and then for ADCC. Like, you know, certain guys have, they figure out what works for them.
You're training all year for one thing. It makes sense. Like, no wonder you're specialized for that rule set and everything else, you know?
Yeah.
There's definitely legitimacy to that.
And it's cool to fight in different rule sets. I've fought in a lot of rules. Like, I don't want, see, if you're going to be, for example, the guy who only comes out for Worlds, right? Then just don't say you're the best at anything but that. Yeah. Just be, like, don't go out and say you'll beat everybody at everything else, but then not even try to do it.
Exactly. Just put your money where your mouth is. Yeah. No, that's definitely legit. I think, like, even me, like, the last time I competed was, like, with my team at Naga, and like, Battle at the Beach. You know what I mean? That was, like, last summer. And then, man, I had to remind myself last year, because like last year I was training with so many guys. Like I hit up 10th Planet. Like I train with like Jim and Zach and all these other guys are just like gods, like to me. You know what I mean? Like I'm an insect and these guys are insane. And I train with Nicky Rod even. Like I rolled that guy, dude. He's so fast and strong that it's just like, why am I even here? Like almost, you know what I mean? Like, I had to come back to myself and like ask myself, like, I'm not here to be a world champion. I'm here because like I want to be a competent martial artist, and that's what I train to do. You know what I mean? And I enjoy it now. Like I just got my purple belt last year as well, and like I feel like my mind is together about things. Of course, I wish I could train more. Like some things like are weird right now with the bus and this whole situation, which is unfortunate. Like I was supposed to be traveling like this whole like I was not supposed to be in PA right now. But just the way shit shook out, you know. It's,
yeah.
You just got to think about like why are you in the game, you know? And I think I really like the podcast because it enables me to have conversations like this with you. Like you can't go on like Jimmy Kimmel show and he can't ask these questions. He'll be like, yo, what's your opinion on like reverse devil even?
Yeah.
He's not gonna ask that. You know, like I can ask the guy like the people I respect really informed questions, I think.
Awesome.
And that's what I do it for anymore, you know?
Yeah, that's...
I'd like to compete. I would do super fights, but as far as paying like $100 for a medal anymore, I'm done.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want it anymore.
That's a tough thing to, like... Yeah, there needs to be a line, like... Amateur competition, like, I understand that pretty much in every sport you're going to pay to enter amateur competitions, but, like... At a certain level, people should be professionals. Like, you shouldn't be paying to necessarily, or whatever. It's such a controversial topic, but like with IBJJF, like the between the membership fees and the tournament fees and everything, like you have a black belt world champion who had to pay $100 to sign up. It's like a weird thing. Like, it's just, what are you working for in the sport? If that's what that is, you know, it's a tough thing.
Yeah, like, what is the title worth in the grand scheme? Like after that, you know, what do you train for? Like in your mind, like, is it like a financial thing? Like, it doesn't seem like that's your motivation. Like, you're literally just here for the fuck shit, bro. Like, you're just about the lifestyle.
I mean, like, at this point, this is, like, it's what I do. It's a big part of who I am. Like, I train, like, I'm just constantly trying to be better than whatever I am right now. And so, like, at this point, it's like, I know what I feel like when I'm in good shape. I don't want to feel like I'm in bad shape. I know what I feel like when my skills are sharp and I'm training regularly. I know what I feel like mentally when I think I'm getting better versus when I feel like I don't know how to get better or I'm not doing the work I need to do. Like, I just, like, it's the, like, I can't see ways at this point. Like, I can't imagine any ways of making my future better that don't involve martial arts. And like, it's just,
where do you see yourself, like, in your retirement? Like, what do you think your life looks like? Is it you in like a shack on a mountain?
I don't know.
It's like you didn't even say no. It's like, I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, you know what? It would be cool to like something that I've like thought about for a long time. It would be cool to be able to set up a house that's like totally self-sustaining. So if you got, you know, your electricity from the sun and you had batteries and you had a well for water and you grew your food and like then you pretty much don't need money for anything. Like, maybe you got to pay property tax and that's it. And like, it would be cool at some point to set up a situation like that so that I wouldn't have to worry in like my older age about like I lean more into the side of like cutting my expenses way down than I do to the side of making as much money as I possibly can.
Yeah, man.
And
I definitely can relate. Like, obviously, like, the minimalist lifestyle is literally what I was doing. Like, I was using other people's toilets and showers. I mean, it's unique, but I think, like, even to the point where it makes your life more complicated in ways that people don't understand. Like, that sort of thing, right? Like, let's just talk about, like, not even the bus, just like that hypothetically. Like, you need to maintain the plants that are going to give you your food. You know
Right,
what I mean?
exactly.
Like, you need to be on top of that stuff. Like, you hunt too?
No, but I would. Like, I'm not opposed to it. Yeah, I'm from Manhattan, so
Yeah.
it's not like.
It's hard to,
Yeah.
for sure.
There's no
What do you
like
hunt?
nobody's hunting around there, but.
Hunting some street rats.
But yeah, I would. I think like if like in terms of like ethics and food and stuff like that, there are very few like if you're gonna kill one animal and get many meals from it, like you there's one conscious entity, you kill it in a way that's ideally quick and not painful. And then you get many meals from it. Or if you go buy ground meat at the grocery store, there might be 50 cows in there.
Yeah.
Like even if you're buying plants and shit, stuff got chewed up in the machines while it was harvested. Like I think hunting is one of the most ethical ways to get food, or even just like farming and you kill an animal and then you have like that animal for your food. Like
I don't know if you knew this, but like my diet, like I'm a pescatarian and I'll only eat like I say I'm a pescatarian, but really like it goes deeper than that. Like I'll eat meat if it's hunted.
Okay.
And, like just because, and like with the fish, like I only want fresh caught fish.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I want whatever I'm eating to have had its fair shake.
I get it. You're selective about the quality of how the animal
like,
lives.
Whatever you consume, that thing's life energy goes into you, and like if it's something that's been bred its whole life for human consumption,
sure,
it's not going to be good.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and like even there's a very physical element to that where like you're first of all like you're made out of whatever you ate. Mm-hmm. Like what do you want to build your body out of? Yeah. Like and like that's also one of these things about like I have no problem with taking a strong animal and making that a part of me. Like I like that idea. That's a good thing. But yeah, even like hormones and neurotransmitters and stuff like that like stay in tissues of like an animal that lived a miserable life. Like I don't want to eat that. It definitely matters.
Yeah, that's cool to hear you say that stuff, man. Like what are some things, like how do you source your food, like when you're going grocery shopping and stuff? Like what are some things that you're going after?
I look for like pasture raised grass fed meat, wild caught fish, and then like obviously some of the labels are less meaningful than others, and like and fruits, vegetables. Like I stick mostly to natural foods basically. I try to keep sugar pretty low.
Keep the Twinkies out of the house.
Yeah, I don't eat refined sugar for the most part. Yeah.
That's good, man. That's sick. What's like when you meal prep, like what's one of your favorite things like to make and then last a week?
I make
the chicken and broccoli thing. Like that's always what I hear.
I make chili. I do make
chili.
I like to make chili. I make chili with like all different kinds of meat. So like I'll use ground beef or ground lamb or ground pork or I'll make or bison or like
That's sick. So you do the chili with like rice and stuff?
Depending on how much carbohydrates I'm including in my diet, I might include.
So meticulous
yeah, so like I might include rice and beans. I might put just beans in there. It might be just meat. Like it depends on.
That's crazy. Have you experimented with like the carnivore diet and like the keto thing at all?
I've played a lot with keto and I've had some great results with it. I kind of use for weight cuts. I kind of use like a targeted ketogenic diet where I'll consume carbohydrates right around workouts, and other than that, it'll be all fat-based. But I haven't really done carnivore where I've cut everything else out for an extended period of time. Yeah.
Like you'll maybe do it for like a day or two where it's just meat.
Yeah.
Or something. Yeah, that's interesting. Man, you have such a cool approach, man. Like that was like my goal with this project. Like, it's just like the problem with the bus thing is just it's so chaotic. So that's something like a lot of people maybe didn't realize. Like you think it's as simple like, oh, you're just in the bus, you just sit there and eat saltines. It's like not doing anything, but it's really complicated to deal with like certain things and like manage like the electricity when it's raining and like.
Yeah, it does.
This was hard. As much money as I saved doing it.
Sure.
So it was really great because I was able to travel. Like, all the things that I'm not spending on rent, I could spend on traveling.
Yeah.
On the fuel costs.
Yeah.
So that was really sick. But at some point, like, it kind of like gets weird where, like, you're like, fuck, dude, I need like I need like a hotel room where I can just like have regular meetings for a day and like recharge my brain and not have to worry about some things.
I can imagine.
Like even the water thing, like right here, that tank. Like I was supposed to install that before winter, but it just didn't happen.
I hear you.
Yeah. But all right, man. I think we're coming to the end here. I think we've been going for like almost an hour and a half now.
Awesome.
Any last words to your training partners?
Well, to my training partners, thank you. I'm deeply appreciative of all the time that we put in together. And for anyone else watching, thanks for listening. It's been a pleasure. Had a great time. Yeah, for sure.
And we'll be hopefully getting a technique video later today.
Yeah.
So I don't know if anyone's watching that's going to be in the area, but I'm going to probably take a little trip to go train with Dave later today. So I'll see you guys later if you're watching.